So we're going to look at some more advanced problems when we're dealing with solving equations that are fractions. So again, we're going to remind ourselves what we're looking for. We're looking to get rid of the denominator, and to get rid of our denominators, to really have no fractions anymore, we are going to have to multiply all of the fractions by the least common denominator. So we have to find the least common denominator, multiply everything by it. All right, so we're going to do these 3 problems, and all of them are a little bit different than our part 1, and you should have a decent idea of how to go about these from here on in. All right, so let's take a look at this first one. We have 4 minus x divided by 6 minus x, and that is going to equal 5 over 6. Now there are 2 ways you can do this problem. I'm going to show you the way that we dealt with the fractions in the first video first, and then I'm going to show you a shortcut when you only have 2 fractions that are equal to each other. The shortcut is very, very quick. You will like it. So here we go. What is our least common denominator in this case? Well, this fraction here has, this fraction here has a denominator of 6 minus x. This fraction here has a denominator of 6. Do they share any common factors?
6.
No, they don't. You might be tempted to say they share a 6. However, that would mean that there would be a 6 in front of this x here, and that doesn't occur. So they do not share any common factors. So our common denominator is going to be 6 minus x times 6. This is very similar to a situation where you have like 1/2 plus 1/3. What are you going to do? You're going to multiply this fraction by 3 over 3, this one by 2 over 2. So the common denominator here is going to be 2 times 3, which would be 6, right? So we're going to do the same basic thing over here. All right. So we have 4 minus x over 6 minus x. What are we going to have to multiply this by? Well, we're going to multiply it by the common denominator, right? And our common denominator is 6 times 6 minus x over 1. Now obviously you're going to tell me 6 minus x divided by 6 minus x is 1. So these will end up canceling out. We are going to still have our equal sign, and we're going to have our 5/6, and we're going to multiply the 5/6 by our common denominator, which is 6 times 6 minus x. And the reason why we're allowed to do this is because you know to solve a linear equation you can multiply, divide, add or subtract anything you want to one side of an equation as long as you do the exact same thing to the other side. In this case we're multiplying 6 times the quantity 6 minus x to both sides of my equal sign. Well, do I have a common factor here that I can reduce? 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So now I'm left with no denominator. So you notice how this is canceled and this is canceled, right? So we have, and I'm going to rewrite the problem, we have 4 minus x times 6. And this is going to be equal to 5 times 6 minus x. So now, let's multiply this through. Let's distribute the 6. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times negative x is
Negative
6x. All right. Let's distribute here. 5 times 6?
30.
All right. So what are we going to do to get both sides, to get the x all by itself? Play the game! The game is to get x all by itself.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Favorite weekend activity.
I know, that's what I do with my free time. Yeah, totally. I just solve these all the fun.
Favorite thing in the whole world.
Okay. So, what am I going to do to both sides of the equal sign to get the x's together so they can have a party?
Subtract. Plus 5x.
I could add 5x to both sides. That's going to get negative, hold on a second. That's going to get negative 1x over here, which means that it's going to give me an extra step. So instead of adding 5x to both sides, I'm going to add 6x to both sides. Because that's going to, even though I could have added 5x to both sides and gotten the correct answer, this is going to limit my number of steps. Because I will end up with a positive x on the right side. So I've done nothing with the 24. Negative 6x plus 6x is just 0. I still have my 30. Negative 5x plus 6x is?
X.
All right. So now what do I do to both sides to get the x all by itself?
Minus 30.
Let's subtract 30 from both sides of my equal sign.
Minus.
So when I subtract it out, 24 minus 30 is?
Negative 6.
Negative 6 is equal to x. And I have my answer, which is brilliant. Now, when you're presented with two fractions that are equal to each other, I hinted that there is an easier way of doing this. I will explain. So, I know that the answer is going to be negative 6. So I'm going to keep that here. I'm going to shrink it, however, so I can save it for later. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just erase this work here. All right. Oh, it's kind of cute. All right. So here's the trick. Last year, when we talked about proportions, and you'll remember that a proportion are two fractions that are equivalent. We have a proportion. We have two fractions that are equivalent. To solve a proportion, we learned that you can solve this by cross multiplication. So we're going to use cross multiplication. We're going to see if this works. So we're going to multiply across the equal sign.
Oh.
Just looking for the packet, for the review packet for the unit test.
Genius.
They've all been passed out.
They've all been passed out.
I need to multiply across here as well. And so let's go ahead and multiply 4x times 6. So we have 6 times 4 minus x is equal to 5 times 6 minus x. This is just what you did last year, isn't it?
Yes, and then you just do
Right. And oh my goodness, so let's go ahead and multiply it out. So we get 24 minus 6x is equal to, multiply it out, 30 minus 5x. And you'll notice, this is why I saved this for later, you'll notice that that's the exact same thing we got over here. So using cross multiplication will work when you are given two fractions that are equal to each other. If you have more than two fractions that are equal to each other, this method will not work and you'll have to multiply out common denominators.
Like the number 2 work for
But I
that?
don't
Like
wanna
16
do
over x minus 3 over 5 equals 1.
So let's take a look at our next problem. Let's take a look at our next problem. The first question I have for you is, do we have a proportion? And again, a proportion is two ratios that are equivalent. Do I have a proportion?
Yes.
Do I have two fractions?
Yes.
Fractions are ratios. Do I have two ratios that are equal to each other?
No. Yes, you do. Sorry.
Oh my goodness, yes, sorry, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, OMG. All right, so how can I solve this? What would be the fastest way to solve this?
Just do the line thingies.
Do the line thingies. Do the line thingies have a name?
Do that.
Cross multiplication.
Cross multiplication.
That's right. It's better to be late than never arrive, right? All right. So
I meant to say mic. But it came out microwave.
so let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and multiply across the equal sign. So we'll end up with 2 times x plus 1 is equal to 3 times x plus 3. Distribute, distribute. So we have 2x plus 2 is equal to 3x plus 9. So we can play the game that we keep talking about. Subtract 2x from both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we get 2 is equal to x plus 9. So let's get the x by itself. Minus 9, minus 9. And so I end up with negative 7 is equal to x.
Yay!
Now it should be negative 7.
That might have gotten you onto the microwave.
Miss
Alright.
Juho said that if you have your phone in your pocket, it can still.
So we are going to, we don't want to hear about our reproductive systems, thank you.
No!
All right.